Alright, I think I'm live. I should be. Alright. Okay, I'm live. Hello, I'm Josh, also known as JoshTheSparky, if you can't tell by now. If you don't know already, if you haven't been following my website or been following my pages, any of my social medias, I'm going through some code questions today. 10 brain buster questions, what I call brain busters. They're just code questions, about 10 of them in a packet form. And we are going... Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff pop up on my phone. But, yeah, we're going to go through some code questions today. About 10 of them. A lot of them, all 10 are from Fast Track System Forms. You can go to nechat.com, sign up for free there with an email, and you can answer these questions yourself and see all of them. So, if you want to go and answer them yourself, you can. But we're going to be going through all of them. Give everyone a few seconds to join in if they need to. And then we'll get into it. I started a little bit early. I just wanted to make sure I could figure out how to go live and everything. My setup's kind of jank right now. I would like to show you the actual code question on screen from the site, but I don't have that set up right now. I got to do that on my computer. I got to download certain apps and then set that up, but that'll all come time. But right now, if you want to go answer these questions yourself, you can, nechat.com, or on my website, I got a question of the week finder. You can just search in whatever date, and it'll give you that date of the question of the week I put up on NEC Chat, and you can go and answer the brain buster. Alright, got about 2 minutes before we start. I will record this, so then I can upload the replay. Alright, set up the recording. And then we will be good to go and answer some questions. If you guys have any questions you want to send me to make a question of the week on, you can send me. It's request@JoshTheSparky.com. You can email me your question, and I'll turn it into a question of the week. And then eventually the question of the weeks get turned into brain busters. And that's what I make my little questionnaire packets out of. So we'll be getting into that 1 minute before I'll start here. Okay. We're going to get into it. So, first question, let me pop open NFPA link. That's what I'm going to be using. 2026 NEC, National Electrical Code. Sorry, I'm doing this awkward movement so I can get over to my desk and use my screen. Alright. Okay. We're good to go. You good to go? Because I'm good to go. Alright, great. So, brain buster number 1. We got a 5 horsepower, 230 volt single phase motor. It's rated for continuous duty and has a service factor of 1.15. The motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amperes. The branch circuit conductors are copper THHN, and the terminals are rated 75 degrees Celsius. What are the minimum branch circuit conductor size and the minimum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32A1? Kind of gives us a big hint there. And I'm not there's hints on the site. I'm not going to read off the hints just to give it a little bit of a challenge. Welcome everyone. Anyone who's joining, welcome. I can't tell if people are joining or asking to join. I don't know how it works, but I'm just doing my thing. Anyways, we got we got multiple choices we can go off of. We got A, B, C, and D, just like an exam style question. If you're an exam, that's kind of what you'll have as a layout. And obviously in an exam setting, you'll be trying to do these in under a minute or two. You'll just be spamming through them and then saving any one that you can't do until the end of the exam, right? That's what a lot of people are teaching you, and that's how you're going to do it. But for when you want to study it, you want to take your time and break it down and go through it, not in a rush. You want to kind of digest what you're talking about and what you're reading. So I'm not going to spam through this and just pick. Can I view comments? I'm so distracted. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, we got multiple answers to go off of. So I'm going to start reading those off. So a 5 horsepower 230 volt single phase motor is rated for continuous duty and has a service factor of 1.15. Motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amps. Branch circuit conductors copper THHN. Terminals rated 75 degrees Celsius. What is the minimum branch circuit conductor size and the maximum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32a? So let's go to that first. We'll just go to that. 430.32a1. Chapter 4, we'll go to Article 430. So motor circuits, motor controls, and we'll go to 32a1. My link is all messed up. All my articles are all disorganized. Welcome anyone joining. If you're just joining in, we're going through some code questions right now. You can get these code questions necchat.com or JoshTheSparky.com/brainbusters. And there's a dash in busters. And we're doing question number 1 right now. All right. So we got A, number 12, American wire gauge, AWG. CU, which is copper, THHN, and 25.3 amps for the overload setting. Or we got B, which is 10 gauge, copper, THHN, 27.5 amps. Then we have C, 10 gauge, copper, THHN, 35 amps. 8 gauge for D, copper, THHN, and 27.5 amps. All right. 5 horsepower 230 volt single phase motor rated for continuous duty and has a service factor of 1.15. All right. Full load current of 22 amps. And the terminals are rated for 75 degrees C. All right. Now we're in 430.32. I said all right about 8 times there. So immediately when I open up 430.32, say it 5 times fast. We got A, more than 1 horsepower. Each motor used in a continuous duty application and rated more than 1 horsepower shall be protected against overload by one of the means in 430.32a1 through 430.a4. 430.32a4. All right. I don't know why I keep saying all right. Like you can agree with me. Like you can talk back. You can't talk back. So underneath 430.32 continuous duty motors, we got these little sub-articles, subsections. The young electrician, I forgot what he called it, but he had a great breakdown on his channel. You can go to his YouTube channel, The Young Electrician. And he breaks down the NEC really nice, and he tells you the different meanings. You'll hear sub-articles, sub-pages, subsections, and it's just sub-articles or articles or section and subsection. Anyways, we got one separate overload device, a separate overload device that is responsive to motor current. This device shall be selected to trip or shall be rated at no more than the following % of the motor nameplate full load current. And we got a little table here. We got motors with a marked service factor of 1.15 or greater, and that's what's in our question. $4,000 to the first person to message me with God is good. That's good. All right. Motors with marked temperature rise of 40 degrees or less is 125% full load rating. All right. And we got all other motors at 1.15 or 115%. Modifications of this value shall be permitted as provided in 430.32c for a multi-speed motor. Each winding connection shall be considered separately, where a separate motor overload device is connected so that it does not carry total current, designated on the motor nameplate, such as for Y delta starting the proper percentage of nameplate current applying to the selection of, or setting of the motor load overload device shall be clearly designated on the equipment, or the manufacturer's selection table shall take this into account. We got an informational note. That's 460.11. We're just going to move past that. It's just power factor correction for capacitors. Not really anything to do with our question. Again, this question is only asking what is the minimum branch circuit conductor and size and the maximum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32A1. So we shouldn't have to read more than 432.A1. It's already given us that that's what we're reading. It basically gave us what it looked in the code book for us. We don't got to really look anywhere. We just got to kind of do the little math here involved. All right? I don't know why I keep saying all right. Like you can agree. Like I'm having a conversation. A 5 horsepower 230 volt. So we got to figure out continuous duty, and as a service factor of 1.15, the motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amperes. All right. I don't have my calculator. We're going to use my computer calculator. I usually use my phone as a calculator. My calculator's out in my car because I use that at work. But this is what we'll do. Okay, we're going to also open up some ampacity tables here because we got wire gauges. Seen a lot of wire gauges, so we're going to also open up the ampacity tables. Do what Thomas Dimitrievich does, middle click, and you can open up another tab while having another tab already open. Pretty fancy while using NFPA link. Alright, let me see. I know my phone's getting a real good shot of my head right now, but that's fine. We are looking in our code book. Again, 430.32A1. What are the minimum branch circuit conductor size and the maximum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32A1? 5 horsepower, 230 volt single phase motor, continuous duty, service factor of 1.15. The motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amps. Branch circuit conductors are copper THHN and the terminals are rated 75 degrees Celsius. And I will read off the hint now, alright? Hint, don't use the motor nameplate current alone to size the branch circuit conductors. Alright. Once again, we got A, B, and C. We got 12 gauge copper THHN and 25.3 amps. We got B, 10 gauge copper THHN, 27.5 amps. C, 10 gauge copper THHN and 35 amps. D, 8 gauge copper THHN and 27.5 amps. Welcome anyone joining. I've seen a lot of joins. I don't know where you guys are joining from or where you're going, but welcome. We're breaking down Brain Busters, code questions, NEC 2026 is what we are using, okay? And you can get these questions every week, every Friday, necchat.com, and you can sign up for free with an email. That's all you need. You don't got to pay for anything to answer or to participate in the questions. There's also a free ampacities course on there where you can learn the ampacities table of the 2026 NEC, National Electrical Code. Okay. So, continuous duty motor. What is continuous duty? What is continuous duty? I just want to see if there's a definition on continuous duty real quick. I believe there is. Move you a little bit closer to me. Well, I'm hunched over. Continuous duty. We're looking in definitions. We're going to go down to C's. Continuous duty, conduit, connector, control, continuous load. Don't got nothing that says continuous duty. Interesting. So we got continuous load, but that's not continuous duty. Continuous load, a load where the maximum current is expected to continue for 3 hours or more. All right, we know that. But that's not continuous duty. 430.32 is talking about continuous duty, so we can't really go figure out what the definition of continuous duty is. I lost my page now. That's the only problem with using like online codebook NFPA link to study, is that the site kind of sucks. That's no disrespect to NFPA or anything, but it's just like, it's just infinite scrolling, which isn't bad, but just annoying when you lose your spot. Alright, so we're in continuous duty motors, 430.32A1. It's what this brain buster number 1 question is telling us to go to. And it gives us a lot of info already. Just trying to see what else I need open here. Alright. So we're going to do what the continuous duty motors 430.32A section says. More than 1 horsepower, more than 1 horsepower, each motor used in a continuous duty application and rated more than 1 horsepower shall be protected against overload by one of the means in 430.32A1 through 432.A4. Alright, so this question is only asking for 432.A1. It doesn't say anything about 432.A4 or anything like that, so I'm not even going to explore further than 430.32A1. Say it 5 times fast, I dare you. Alright. So the first thing that sticks out to me is motors with a marked service factor of 1.15 or greater is calculated at 125%, right? A separate overload device that is responsive to motor current. This device shall be selected to trip or shall be rated at no more than the following percent of the motor nameplate full load current rating. Right? Motors marked with a service factor of 1.15 or greater. And this question is talking about a 5 horsepower 230 volt single phase motor is rated for continuous duty and has a service factor of 1.15. Right? So we are going to need to open up our table here for single phase AC motors as well as the ampacities table for reference. 310.16, most popular table in the NEC. Hello everyone joining, good morning. Once again, doing some code question breakdowns, NEC code questions, brain busters I like to call them. You can get them necchat.com, or you can get a search engine to search for questions on JoshTheSparky.com/brain-busters. Little dash. Okay. Waiting for my NFPA to load. All right, cool. We got 316 open. We got 430.248, 430.248 open for single phase AC motors. Now this motor is 5 horsepower, 230 volt. So we're going to go look at this table. We go by horsepower. We see 5. We go through, look over on the side, scroll along. We see 115 volts. See 200 volts. Again, this is 430.248 table, single phase AC motors. 200 volts we see, which is 32.2 amps. We see 208 volts, 30.8 amps. And now we see 230 volts is 28 amps for 5 horsepower. So I'm going to write this down on my notes. So I'm just going to, we know 5 horsepower equals 28 amps at 230 volts, right? Okay. And now we know this is to be from 430.32. We know motors marked with a service factor of 1.15 or greater, which this is. We know it needs to be rated at 125%. So I'm going to write that down, 1.15. At 125%. All right. So I got some details written down here, and now we are going to go ahead and open up our calculator. Use your phone, use your computer, handheld calculator, whatever you want. Just calculate it. Maybe you can even do it in your head. If you can, that's good for you. You're going to be a good electrician if you can do math in your head. All right, so I just took 28 and I times it by 1.25. Right? How do we know? How do we know if that's the right track or not? How do we know? Okay, we're going to take 35, do 0.8, 35.8, 28, that's just the inverse of 125. And I just want to check one thing. Let's take, where would 28 go if we just did 1.15? We ignored the 125%, 32.2. And we know that's not an answer because we only have 25.3, 27.5, 35, 27.5. All right. I'm going to go with our 35. We know 22 times, let's do it again, make sure I got it right. 22 times 1.25. Ooh, I got a different answer. 27.5. All right. So how did I mess that one up? Let's see. What did I do? I think I put 28. I did. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So we take 22, times it by, remember, I'm still learning too, guys. Times it by 1.25, right? Under 430.32A1. We see motors marked with service factor 1.15 or greater. And we already know temperature rating, because it says, we also see another thing that says motors marked with temperature rise 40 degrees or less. We don't have to do anything there because the temperatures are rated 75 degrees. Motors with a marked temperature rise of 40 degrees or less, 125%. Motors with a marked service factor of 1.15 or greater, 125%. Okay. Yeah, I think we're on the right track here. So we're going to take our 22, we're going to times it by 1.25. That's going to give us 27.5. If you're following along, again, necchat.com. This is the most recent question of the week. Brainbuster number 1, JoshTheSparky.com, brain-busters, and you can see the Brainbuster packet we're doing right now. All right? And you can do it along with me and call me out if I'm getting something wrong, because I'm trying to learn as well. I do this on purpose so I can learn. It makes me have to do better. So I got 27.5, 27.5 amps, okay? Now, the next thing is figuring out this wire gauge, because we got 12, 10, 10, and 8. And we can factor out the 25.3 and the 35 amp 10 gauge and 12 gauge A and B answers, right? Because we got 27.5 amps, and we only see 2 answers, B and D, with 27.5 amps. So it's either going to be this 10 gauge copper or this 8 gauge copper THHN conductor. All right. So let's continue. We are going to now open up my ampasses table here, or NFPA links ampasses table for the NEC. Hey, Paul Abernathy. Hello. How do I add you as a moderator or something? How do I add you as, like... give you, like, a special role or something? Alright. How are you doing, Paul? If you guys don't know Paul Abernathy, he's my online teacher, okay? He runs Fast Track System. Go and give him a follow. Go check out his courses. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate the time. We're just going through some brainbuster questions from necchat.com, from Question of the Weeks. I took every question of the week I did and put them in a little packet. And that's what we're going through today. Thought I'd get in some public speaking as well. So right now we're getting through this 5 horsepower, 230 volt single phase motor question for continuous duty. Once again, service factor was 1.15, and the motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amps. So we took that, we went to 430.32A, which is listed in the question, and we times that 22 amps by 1.25%, and we got 27.5 amps. And now we're just trying to decipher some of the question answers. Yes, sir. I agree. Tomorrow's leaders matter today. Train them right. 100%. All right. So now we got to figure out whether this 27.5 amps is the 10 gauge or 8 gauge copper. We already know it's copper. It has CU in the question answers. And we know it's THHN, so we're going to be looking in the THHN section. And we know the terminals are rated 75 degrees, so we know for a fact it's in that column. Don't say that. I will do my best to try to keep it going. I want to keep it going. But people like you is what makes me want to keep it going, because I got good people to learn from and go off of. So okay, so we're going to go off of what this question answer already gave us. We're going to check this 10 gauge copper THHN 27.5 amp. So let's scroll around, see 10 gauge, and can already, 10 gauge, we got 35 amps. And we got 8 gauge, which is 50 amps. Am I looking in the right one? No, I'm not. See, this is where you got to be careful with the tables. I'm not looking in the right one. I was looking in 75 degree. But this is THHN. And the terminals are rated at 75 degree. All right. So let's see. Branch circuit or copper, THHN, and the terminals are rated 75 degrees C. Celsius. THHN. 75 degree column. We see the types are RHW, THHW, THW, THWN, XHHW, XHWN, USE, ZW. Don't see nothing about THHN, but we see it in the 90-degree column. Right? So what does this mean? Because it's confusing when it says the terminals are rated 75 degrees C, but it's THHN. Branch circuit conductors are copper, THHN, and the terminals are rated 75 degrees C. And we took our 22 amps, times it by 1.15, or times it by 1.25, got 27.5 amps. Think we're missing something. The THHN is just the insulation, of course. The limitations are always the termination, of course. That's what I'm wrapping my head around that as well. That's one thing we're missing right now. We got 5 horsepower from 430.248 is 28 amps at 230 volts. And we know the motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amps. And now we go to 430.32, each motor in a continuous duty application and rated more than 1 horsepower shall be protected against overload by one of the means. A separate overload device that is responsive to motor current shall be able to trip it. Motors with a marked service factor of 1.15 or greater. This value shall be permitted as provided in 430.2c. Each winding considered where separate motor overload is connected so that it does not carry. It's nothing I really need there. Motors with a marked service factor of 1.15 or greater. We know this is marked with a service factor of 1.15. Motor nameplate is 22 amps. 1.110.14c tells us 60 degrees unless, of course, wire and terminals are 75 degrees. Then we just ignore the 60 degrees. Right, I remember that. All right. Tells us 60 unless, of course, wire terminals. Then we just ignore the 60, correct. It's 100% correct. Know that. So, wire terminals are rated 75, then we just ignore the 60. Yeah, so in this question, we got a 5 horsepower, 230 volt, single phase motor is rated for continuous duty and has a service factor of 1.15. The motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amperes. The branch circuit conductors are copper THHN, and the terminals are rated 75 degrees C. What are the minimum branch circuit conductor size and the maximum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32a? So we got to find the minimum branch circuit conductor. It's 2 questions in one. In overloads, folks forget it doesn't have to meet both factors. All right, okay. See, this is why I like doing these, because I always struggle on these motor questions. That's why I wanted to do it for this questions of the week, because I am getting into more calculations in my next module. I got to figure out these. I can figure out the dwelling calculations, but motors I'll struggle on. So, I know the answer for this one, but I did forget and I'm struggling. Service factor or rise. In overloads, folks forget it doesn't have to meet both factors, service factor or rise. I have a great motor video. Yeah, you do. I got it bookmarked. I gotta watch it. I'm gonna have to watch it after this live stream I do. And everyone who's watching this should watch it. That's why I got Paul Abernathy's stuff all linked through my site, because that's who I learn from, and that's who I push everyone to learn from as well. So you can learn along with me. Okay, so we already know the motor is 28 amps at 230 volts. Service factor of 115. So motor, single motor, just 430.22, of course, at 125. Yup. All right. The overload is nameplate value. Okay. Trying to scroll. Conductors, supplies, conductors at 430.32 single motor. Conductors that supply a single motor used in a continuous duty application shall have an ampacity of not less than 125% of the motor load current rating as determined by 430.6A1 or not less than specified in 430.22A through 430.22G. Motors 430.22. All right. So let me see. We know the motor nameplate is just the overload is the nameplate value. All right. So conductors that supply a single motor used in a continuous duty application shall have an ampacity of not less than 125% of the motor full load current rating as determined by 430.6A1 or not less than specified in 430.22A1 through 432.22G. Okay. All right, so we know it's 120. So all right, so we're on the right track with our 27.5 amps. Now it's just finding that wire gauge. So I'm going to take our capacities table. We're going to take overload is nameplate in amps, and initial overload is 430.32. Okay. The pieces are coming together. Overload is nameplate in amps, and initial overload is 430.32. All right. So we're going to take 125, or 22 times 125. No. 22 times 1, 27 and a half. So we got 27 and a half for 22 amps, and then we're going to take our 28, and we're going to look for what 28 amps can work under. What on the ampacities table. All right, so we're going to look in the ampacities. We're going to take our 28 amps. And we are going to look in THHN. And 28 amps. I got 10 gauge. 28 amps. Got 10 gauge. Overload is nameplate in amps, and initial overload is 430.32A. 140% of FLA. 40% of FLA. On motors, always size conductors first, then do overload after. Okay, all right, that's what I'm doing wrong. I dropped my pen. That's what I was doing wrong. Okay. It's all in how you digest the question. And I am digesting it wrong. So we're gonna reset here. We're gonna save our information, and we're gonna start over. Got single phase motor is rated for continuous duty and has a service factor of 1.15. The motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amperes. The branch circuit conductors are copper, THHN, and the terminals are rated 75 degrees Celsius. What is the minimum branch circuit conductor size and maximum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32a? On motors, always size the conductors first, then do overload afterwards. Take motor FLC at 125%, then size. Take nameplate amps times 140, and that's overload. Okay. I got it. Alright. Okay. Alright. Motor FLC. Okay. And then all right. Okay. So we are going to go ahead with our FLC, which we know is 28 amps times 1.25. That's 35 amps. And then hint, overloads usually never match conductor sizes because motors are protected by SC/GF. The overload is simply based on nameplate factors. Okay. All right. So it won't always, it never matches the conductor sizes. Okay. Overload is simply based on nameplate factors. Okay. So we take our nameplate amps, which is 22 amps. We're going to times it by 140. That's 30.8. Now we know our 35 amps. Got 38 amps here. And now we're going to go to ampacities. And the closest one I got is 10 gauge THHN copper for 30.8 amps, 40 amps. So I got 10 gauge, and I got 35 amps for my overload. For my overload motor. For my motor. The overload is simply based on nameplate factor. So it's a 5 horsepower motor, right? Yes, correct. It's a 5 horsepower motor at 230 volts, single phase motor, rated for continuous duty, and has a service factor of 115. The motor nameplate indicates a full load current of 22 amperes, and the branch circuit conductors are copper THHN. The terminals are rated 75 degrees Celsius. What are the minimum branch circuit conductor size and the maximum initial overload setting permitted under 430.32A1? Yep. 22 amps times 140. Okay. So that's our overload. which is 22 amps times 140 is 30.8 amps. And we got our branch circuit at 35. (28 times 125 is amps per size on conductors. Use 75-degree column and 310.16. Yep. So 28 times 125, 35, and it'd still be the same. Okay, so I got mine confused. Okay, that's what I was doing wrong. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we learned. I was confusing branch circuit conductors and overload in this question. My own question confused me. All right, so that shows you how cool these code questions are on nechat.com and how good TradeHog is at giving you some good questions. It does happen, but I like it when it happens because I actually learned something from that. Because I always struggle with motor questions. It's like the least looked in part of the book for me, I would have to say, is 430, because I just don't mess with motors that much, and it's not in my head as much. But it really should be, because that's probably what I would end up getting on my real exam. It'd be all motor questions, and that's something I won't have experience with. So I'm happy I didn't do great on that question. I actually learned. Thank you for joining in, Paul Abernathy. You're just old. Nah, you're young and spry. What do you mean? You're just old. Don't say that. I'm studying for my J-Man license. Any online quiz and time exam recommendations? The guy in our chat right now, Electrical Code Academy Inc. Go to him. fasttracksystem.com. No S, just fasttracksystem.com. nechat.com is where you can find all the free sources, question of the week, and there's a free ampacity course so you can get familiar with his system and everything going on. And then you got JoshTheSparky. There you can go and try to find some sources. I always link and update sources for everything going on. You're a hack? No, you're not. I can show you some real hacks. But go to fasttracksystem.com and you browse through, and you can pick out. There's even necquiz.com is still up, I believe, and you can get some free quizzes on there. But for starting out, you should, if you're already thinking that way, just start doing some practice questions to get familiar, and then work your way into Paul Abernathy's community through NEC chat or other forums like that. And then once you're familiar with whatever education system you're in the community of, then you can go fully into it because you know what's going on, you're familiar with it. Don't just, there's a $1,000 education course, let me get it, and you don't learn anything, maybe because you're not even into learning from that certain teacher or person. But just, you're in the right spot if you're asking those questions. Electrical Code, they just put my name in the front of the NEC because I bribed them. So you're saying if you want your name in the front of the code book, just make some briberies? Oh man. Just throw money at NFPA? I already do. I'm already halfway there. Every month. All right. That question took me about 45 minutes to get through. Now, on a real exam, you would probably scroll right through, flag that at the end, and then go through it after you did all the easy ones. But like I said, I like taking my time and going through it, especially when I'm in, like, this stream counts as my study session for the day. So, gotta run, fella. Keep it up and keep shining bright. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. I hope you have a good day. Take it easy and keep up the good work and teaching everyone good, you know? You power people like me, so I'll keep shining bright as long as you give me the fuel. Alright, so Brainbuster number 2. Question number 2. I've dropped this pen about 8 times. I'm about to just throw it in the trash. Okay, so let's continue here. I'm going to keep my calculator open because I can already tell we might need some more calculations going on. So, Brainbuster number 2. How many 12-gauge AWG, how many 12-gauge THHN conductors are permitted in a 4x4 inch metal box that is 1/4 inch deep with no devices, no internal clamps, and no equipment grounding conductors? So with those mentioned, I think this will be pretty, fingers crossed, pretty easy. Last time I said that, I was sitting here for 45 minutes trying to break down the question. So hopefully this one's a little bit easier, right? So first thing we're going to open up is, we're going to open up chapter 3, and we're going to go down to conductors. We need outlet devices, pole and junction boxes, Article 314 in Chapter 3 for this question. All right, I can immediately like that because I'm familiar with this type of question. As soon as it starts saying no devices, no internal clamps, no equipment grounded conductors, like something goes off in my head, like, oh, that's in Chapter 3, and it's 314. With the metal box table. I just remember the table for the metal boxes. Metal boxes. Alright? And so we're going to open that up, 314, and we're going to go to that table I was talking about. We don't know for sure that's like the page that we need to be on for this question, but just to get us in that environment, we're going to go to it, and it is 314.16. which is like really easy to remember. 310.16 and 314.16, probably the most popular tables in the NEC. I would have to say it's probably what you'll be in the most. And it's weird because it's like I say that, but when I was working, I wasn't in the book as much as I really expected to be on a commercial setting. But I mean, when you're in a residential setting, why wouldn't you want to know those two tables? Just if the foreman or a journeyman asked you a question, you could bop it out like that, and they'd probably be like, "Oh, damn! You know, this guy's got something clicking up here. He's got gears turning." Anyways, so 314.16, number of conductors and outlet device and junction boxes and conduit bodies. Boxes and conduit bodies shall be of an approved size to provide free space for all enclosed conductors. In no case shall the volume of the box as calculated in 314.16a be less than the fill calculation as calculated in 314.16b. The minimum volume for conduit bodies shall be calculated in 314.16c. So that just gave us a lot of information that we really didn't need for this question. And that's what, like, these questions are going to make you do. They make you, like, go through the code book, start reading a bunch of stuff, and then before you know it, like 40 minutes went by. And it's not like purposely doing that, but it's trying to get you to just like decipher in your head before you even open the code book, the question, and then you open the code book to that area, and then just unlocking certain like mechanisms in your brain from the question itself. You'll be able to figure it out in the code book. And it's just by doing questions constantly and reading it and spending the 45 minutes wasting time reading the question and reading the whole article to understand it. You know, it's not a waste of time if you're learning something. That's how I try to think of it, you know, because I'll track off like I am now and spend an hour on one question, but I want to learn it. I want to break it down piece by piece and understand it. Just like how the overload was different from the conductors in that last question. And I don't want to start like mixing up questions here, but you know, just a little chat about that. All right, so how many number 12 THHN conductors are permitted in a 4x4 metal box that is an inch and a quarter deep, with no devices, no internal clamps, and no equipment grounded conductors? We got A, which is 8. We got B, which is 9. We got C, which is 10. We got D, which is 11. Okay? So we open up 314.16. And we are I'm going to immediately go down to volume allowance. All right, and it's saying conductors. We go down to box fill calculations because this is a little bit like a box fill calculation. And you can go through the table as well and see if you can solve it that way. Sometimes I'll be able to solve the question through the table just instantly, but we'll take a browse through it and just see. I really wish you guys could see me scrolling through the site, but I have to set that up next time so you can see, because it's just easier to explain visually while talking, so it doesn't just look like I'm staring off into the void as well. So we go through this table and we don't see like a 4x4 metal box, right? You see 4x1 quarter round octangle, 4x1 1/4 square. You see all of these not really clicking, right? So the next thing we'll go through, we don't need to go through, you know, clamp support or equipment, because it has no clamps, no equipment, and it doesn't even have any devices. So you don't even have to go through any device or equipment fill. It's just how many 12 gauge THH conductors are permitted in a 4x4 inch metal box that is an inch and a quarter deep with no devices. 4x4 metal box, inch deep, metal devices. So we're looking in 314.16a. Box volume calculations. The volume of a wiring enclosure box shall be the total volume of the assembled sections, and where used, the space provided by plaster rings, domed covers, extension rings, and so forth, that are marked with their volume or are made from boxes in the dimensions of which are listed in table 314.16a. Where a box is provided with one or more securely installed barriers, the volume shall be apportioned to each of the resulting spaces. Each barrier, if not marked with its volume, shall be considered to take up. Sorry, I'm like out of cam. Shall be considered to take up half an inch if metal and an inch if non-metallic. All right. So we read that standard volumes, the volumes of standard boxes that are not marked with their volume shall be given in table 314.16a. And we got our trade size. We got 4x1 quarter. Now a 4x4 inch metal box is a 4x4 one quarter. That round octagonal. This question doesn't say like what type of box it is. It doesn't say square. It doesn't say round rectangle. It just says metal box. 4x4 metal box, right? And we have here trade size, box trade size, inch, 4x4, 1/4, right? That's just the standard, okay? That's just the standard. and we can actually just take the gauge of that number. I lost my page. See, I hate using an NFPA link like this, man. I can't show you anything. So we know that that's just the standard 4x4. 4 times 1/4. It's just the standard that the code book goes off of. A 4x4 metal box that is a 1/4 inch deep, no devices, no internal clamps, no equipment, ground, and conductors. And we know it's 12 gauge. We're going to go by my live is going to end in 4 or 5 minutes. What do you mean? I didn't even get started. How do I not end my live? Hold on, guys. Hello? I'm here. I gotta solve a puzzle? What? What is it making me do? Oh, wow. I've never had such a challenge solving a 1 square puzzle. Oh, wow, I did it. Okay. Am I still here? That was so crazy. Someone just threw a puzzle up in my face and said they would end my stream if I didn't solve it. Okay, where was I? I forgot what I was talking about. I forgot where we were in this question because of that. Alright, hold on. Give me a second, guys. Let me figure out where I was here. What up, New Mexico Sparky? How's it going? What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Make sure everyone go give him a follow, anyone who's watching. Alright, so we got Brain Buster number 2. If you're just joining in, we're going through some Brain Buster challenges, code question challenges, 2026 NEC. Took every question of the week I did from necchat.com, and I turned it into a packet on my website, JoshTheSparky.com/brain-busters. You can go scroll through and solve some questions yourself. There's an answer key as well you can download. You can even download the site as a PDF, so you can do it on paper if you prefer that. And then you can have like a whole stack of like knowledge. Like, look at all this. I did all this, you know? But we're going through the Brain Busters. We solved Brain Buster 1 with the help of Paul Abernathy, who tuned in from the Electrical Code Academy. That was a big help. Next, we're on Brain Buster number 2. And we are solving this question that's asking how many number 12 gauge THHN conductors are permitted in a 4x4 inch metal box that is a 1/4 inch deep, an 1.25 inch deep, with no devices, no internal clamps, and no equipment, grounding conductors. And we got our answers: 8 for number A, or number 8 for number A. We got 8 for answer A. We got 9 for answer D, or 9 for answer B, 10 for answer C, and 11 for answer D. So we got our article from chapter 3. We got article 314, open, number of conductors and outlet device in junction boxes and conduit bodies. And we're going to use our hint here. There's a little hint. Determine the box volume first, then apply the conductor volume allowance for 12 gauge conductor. So we got to find the box volume first. The box volume. Minimum volume of this box. So let's see. Conductors are permitted in a 4x4 metal box that is 1.25 inches deep. 1.25 inches deep. 1.25 inches deep. This doesn't say if it's round, doesn't say if it's square, doesn't say if it's got it. We already know there's no devices, no equipment grounds, and no eternal clamps. I gotta keep moving my camera around every time I slouch. Okay. Let's see. We gotta find our volume. Determine box volume first. So let's figure out the box volume. Box volume. Advice for first year. Advice for first year. Do as many code questions as possible. Study as much as possible, and always ask questions. Like, that's one thing I wish I did more on my last project, is I wish I asked more questions, but I would take like the foreman and other guys around me, just their facial expressions as getting annoyed, and I wouldn't ask questions. Don't do that. Just ask away. Ask all the questions you can. Learn about what you're doing. Even if you have an idea about what's going on, ask about it. Be like, oh, so we're going to be running this run to the transformer. We're going to be doing that generator switch today. We're going to do that. We're going to be lighting it up today. Are we going to be doing, like, try to get into the conversation with them. That's one thing I wish I did more. I took it like, oh, you're an apprentice. You're supposed to shut up and just do the work. But don't do that. Put yourself out there, because that's what really is going to surprise them. It'll make you look really good, and like you're not afraid of, like, you got confidence, and do code questions. Like, if you're in America, we go off the National Electrical Code here. You want to learn that. That's like the number one thing you want to learn. Do questions, practice questions like we're doing right now. You can go to necchat.com, sign up for free, and it's a whole education system, free course on there for Impassity's table of that book that I just mentioned. And you can get involved on the weekly questions, join in, and gain knowledge. The whole thing you should do as an apprentice is gain as much knowledge as possible before you actually got to start busting your ass working really hard. You want to know what you're working on and what you're doing and what your purpose is in the trade and in the field, and make it so other people are aware that you're aware of that. You're not just a dumb apprentice walking around not knowing what's going on, and you're not into it. You want to learn more, and you want to know more, and you want advice, and you want to be something. If you're already asking for advice, you're already on the right track, is what I'm trying to say. So you just keep learning. Got to keep learning. I think that's the best advice. Of course. Thank you. I'm no goat. I regurgitate what everyone above me says, and I try to. There's not enough. I just don't see enough young people, or I wouldn't really consider myself young even. I don't see enough people just like trying to like push good stuff, good energy. So hopefully I just push someone to just keep pushing. Just got to keep pushing, keep learning. Keep soaking in knowledge, and you can't be silent. Sitting in the back of the classroom and being silent, you can't do it no more. You gotta. I thought that's like how you're supposed to do things. Be silent, sit in the back, like you want to be afraid of the one that's silent. No, you gotta. They're afraid of the ones that know everything and talk the most. Is what they're afraid of. If you can do that, and if you can be with it on the job as you're learning, and be like, yeah, I just learned this last night, and now I'm learning this on the job, and you're able to talk to the guys with it, and the foreman looks impressed that you know what you're talking about, you'll be in the right place. Okay. We got to figure out this metal box question. So, where was I? 314.16. And we got our determine the box volume first, then apply conductor volume. Man, it's really throwing me off that, like, it's just 4x4 inch metal box. Like, what do I do with that? I don't see no 4 inch by 4 inch metal box on this table. Sorry, I got a text message. Hope you guys can still see me. Okay. Had to respond to that text message real quick. Alright. We're good. Doing it live. Alright, so I'm just looking through this other boxes, metal boxes 314.16a metal boxes table, right? box trade size. I see round, octagonal. We got square, device. Octagonal. And we know that this doesn't have to have, this has no devices in it, no internal clamps, no equipment grounding conductors. And we got box volume and conductor volume. There's two different volumes we're calculating here. So I'm going to go to our 12, and we got how many can fit in a 4x4 box that is 1.25 inches deep. So we know 12, the size of the conductor. I dropped my pen about 8 times, and now I really lost it. So we got a notepad here. Every time I move my camera, I'm not in frame. Gonna go ahead and we're gonna write down, we got 12 AWG. This is from table 314.16B4, volume allowance required by conductor. Now this isn't asking conductor volume. Well, it is, because it says how many 12 American wire gauge THH conductors are permitted in a 4x4 metal box that is 1.25 inches deep, with no devices, no internal clamps, no equipment grounding. How many can I fit in that 4x4 inch metal box that is 1.25 inches deep? So we got size of conductor 12, and we know the inch for that, the little 3 is 2 point. I once again wish I could highlight it and show you guys on page. I'm going to highlight it for myself so I can see 2.25. Alright. Great. So, going to take our 2.25, and now we're going to scroll up to our back to our table. I'm just looking around, looking here. I keep getting invited to things. I don't want to join no one. I want to do my own thing. I don't need no invite. You get the invite to my thing. All right. So if you use NFPA Link, there's a lot of great demonstrations for these box fill calculations, and I'm looking through that right now. They got some great visual guides, or not even a guide, just visual tables you can go off of that shows you how you're finding allowance and the difference between allowance and volume allowance and the conductor size, and just it gives you good information. I'm just looking through that right now. I'm a little distracted because I kept seeing pop-ups pop up on my phone. I gotta learn how to disable that. Okay. So we're gonna go up to this table now, and I'm gonna go take my calculator, and we're gonna see what would fit. We got to use our questions as well to decipher this question, or our question answers to decipher the question. We got 8, 9, 10, and 11 for A, B, C, and D. And we know that for 12 gauge, it's 2.25 is the volume. Now, we got to try to find what will match one of these answers. And I can already tell I can already see from the table, using the table, this 12 gauge would only fit 9 conductors in this round octagonal box, right? Because I'm just using the question's answers. I don't see an 8, I don't see a 10, I don't see an 11, I see a 9. I don't see any of those numbers in that column for 12 gauge. and we know 12 gauge is 2.25 to the power of 3 inches. All right, that's the best way I can describe. I forgot what they call that the little number, little numbers on the NEC. It's not coming to me. I had it the other day and I forgot, because it was like such a tidbit of information that's useful for you to know. But that shows you how much you gotta learn and just keep this. This code book is gonna become your life, because I make it mine. Like I know the whole reason I can't get these questions as like that is because I spent too much time developing my website over the weekend, and I didn't put as much time as I wanted to into this code book, because I wanted to do prep work for this prep work I'm doing on stream, and I didn't have time to do it because I was trying to push out some stuff on my website. But that just, you got to find a balance in this electrical trade. Probably one of the most balanced. You got to have a really balanced life to be good in it. And that's what a lot of these teachers, like Paul Abernathy, who came in here, he has a great balance of life because he can do what he can do and push out what he can push out and still retain knowledge. And I know I'm just starting out and I got a long way to go, but it's just, I slip up for a little day and I feel like I knock down some pegs on my knowledge to answer these questions, But we're going to go with question Brainbuster number 2, the answer is 9, for how many number 12 THHN conductors are permitted in a 4x4 metal box that is 1.25 inches deep, with no devices, no internal clamps, and no equipment ground conductors. All right? Once again, if you're just joining in, we are breaking down some code questions. Brainbusters is what I call them. I took all my question of the week posts for necchat.com for the 2026 code. I put them all in a packet on my website, JoshTheSparky.com/brain-busters, and you can go and solve them yourself. There's a answer key as well, so you can see if you got the right answer. And you can also download as a PDF, so you can have it, like, you can just always do it while you're sitting at the desk away from the computer. Because I know some people, they like studying away from all the screens and stuff, because it does kind of enhance your capabilities in your head without all distractions and all these like frequencies going into it. But yeah, we're going to go to our third brain buster here. Thank you for all the likes and stuff. I keep seeing stuff pop up on my screen. I don't really know what's happening. I never used TikTok Live before. I'm just trying to put some live streams out there on different platforms to get familiar with what's going on. And then I would like to do these study sessions more often. But yeah, I'm just trying to get familiar with it. If I miss you, I apologize. If you wanted me to see a certain message, DM me or send me it at ask@JoshTheSparky, ask@JoshTheSparky.com. You can email me any questions you got, anything there. There's a request email, request@JoshTheSparky. You request me to make you questions or certain content. And I also have just business@JoshTheSparky if you want to hire me to be your apprentice. So if you're in Massachusetts. But anyways, we're going to go to Brainbuster number 3. And I think this will be a little bit easier. Hopefully these start getting easier, because I'm going to be here all day, which isn't that bad, but I got other things to do. So we're going to go Brainbuster number 3. According to the NEC, what is the maximum trade size permitted for intermediate metal conduit, also known as IMC? What is the maximum trade size permitted for intermediate metal conduit, IMC? All right, we got A, trade size 4, B, trade size 5, C, trade size 6, and D, trade size 8. So immediately right off the bat, I'm going to go to chapter 3 of the NEC, and I'm going to start scrolling through or flipping through pages to find the IMC article, or the intermediate metal conduit article. And it's going to be, we're gonna scroll through. I'm using NFPA link online once again to browse the 2026 NEC. But you may be flipping through the book, you may be flipping through pages, you may even be using another standard or another dated NEC like 2023 or 2020, And I can't help you with that exact like page number or article number. You're going to be on your own for that. Apologies, but these questions should be able to help you between all, code books. You just have to figure out the answer for that particular edition yourself, because I don't know it for the previous editions of the code book right off the top of my head. I would have to learn with you. Anyways, we're going to start scrolling. I'm going to look through. I see underground feeder, and I see intermediate metal conduit. That is going to be Article 342 of the NEC. So I'm going to click that. Immediately, we got the scope. This article covers the use, installation, and construction of specifications for intermediate metal conduit and IMC associated fittings. I don't know why I had to say it like that. I was trying not to stutter. So, we're going to scroll through here, and I'm looking for anything that says size, trade size. We're going to do bold scanning, as Paul Abernathy would like to call it. Many other educators just call it scanning through. You're just going to scan. You're not going to read everything, but you're going to have your eyes just kind of like, when you're driving and you look way off down to the distance on the road, that's how they teach you to drive. That's how I was taught to drive. You look down the road. You don't look in front of your vehicle, which a lot of people do, surprisingly. You want to look down the road. And when you're browsing through the NEC, you want to look at the book and go down. You're browsing the whole thing. You're not reading every word, in your head, the little brown fox jumped over the moon or something. You're just scanning, and you're going to scan for certain things. Like in your head, you already have this data I'm looking for. I already got intermediate metal conduit. I can take that out of my head because I'm on that page. Now I'm just looking for trade size or size, right? So now when you're scanning through and you're doing that looking down the road, instead of looking right at each word, you're looking down the book and you're scrolling your eyes, do. Like there's that meme of SpongeBob and his eyes are going like this, right? You're doing that and you're just going to look through until you see trade size or size, and you're going to stop, and then you're going to start reading, word for word. The little brown fox jumped over the moon and did a loop-de-loop or whatever, right? Great. So I'm going to scroll through, and immediately 342.20 pops out at me because that's size, right? We don't know what size that is, what that's talking about, but we just know it's size of something. And I'm going to start reading it. So we got 342.20 size for intermediate metal conduit, which is in Chapter 3 of the NEC 2026 edition. And we're going to read a minimum. IMC smaller than the metric designator 16, trade size 1/2 shall not be used. Maximum IMC larger than metric designator 155, which is trade size 6, shall not be used. We don't use the metric system or metric designator as far as I'm aware. We use the trade size in America, and I guess in different locations where the NEC is used, like in different countries, they like Canada maybe. I don't know. I'm talking out like of nowhere for that one, but maybe they use that metric designator. I never use that metric designator. It's always by trade size. So that's just a little tip. And you're going to see things like that, like metric system. And it's good to know the other systems. I don't know the other system, like metric system and designator and stuff like that, but I think it would be good to know those systems because, you're going to be using them. if you're just reading the book and what if those pop up on the question one day, you're going to want to know just how to easily decipher what they're talking about. So I just said a lot of stuff there. I'm sorry. I'm rambling like crazy. Paul Abernathy got me motivated. So you guys got to deal with me rambling. All right. So I'm going to go with trade size 6 because that's the maximum trade size. That's what we just read. Probably the easiest question on this packet. Thank you for all the likes and stuff, guys. I appreciate it. I don't know if anyone's watching me or not watching me. I don't I don't do it for any of that. I just wanted to do something. Something good. Alright, so we're going to go to Brainbuster number 4. A feeder supplies the following 2 motor-operated loads: a 30-amp air compressor, a 24-amp dust collector. The equipment is listed and designed so only one load can operate at a time. According to the 2026 NEC, what is the minimum calculated load for this feeder? Alright, so we gotta figure this one out. What is the minimum calculated load for this feeder? We've got a 30-amp air compressor, 24-amp dust collector. We got our questions: A, 30 amp, B, 37.5 amp, C, 54 amps, and D, 67.5 amps. We got our hint: consider whether both loads must be included simultaneously when the equipment is designed so they cannot operate at the same time. So that's a big hint there, huge hint. Because immediately in my head, that is simultaneously. When it says that, I think non-coincidental loads. All right. So we're gonna scroll through, and it's talking about air compressor. We got 2 motor operated loads, right? So these are motor operated loads: 30 amp air compressor, 24 amp dust collector. Let's put them down. Got 30 amp. I'm just going to put air. 30 amp for air. And we got 24 amp for dust. Alright. I'm going to take that. If you're following around, got 30 amp for air compressor, 24 amp for dust. The equipment is listed and designed so only one load can operate at a time. Alright? So, one at a time, and consider whether both must be included simultaneously when the equipment is designed so they cannot operate at the same time. Alright? So, I'm going to bring you to definitions real quick. We're going to go to definitions. We're going to go to Article 100, and I'm going to go to the N section of Article 100. And non-coincidental. Probably not going to find it, am I? Non-linear. Where was it? Looking through, once again, using NFPA link. Not my favorite way to learn, but I can't. I thought I was on somewhere with that, but I guess I'm not. I thought there was a non-coincidental load section on here, but there's not. Let me just check loads. Loads L. LMNOP. Loads. Linear. Lighting. Load management. Yep, okay. We got nothing there. Alright, nothing there. So I'm going to immediately go into... We got air compressor. We got 2 motors. Go into... Gotta find motors again. Article 430. Chapter 4. And we're going to open up motors. Alright. Motor operated loads. Alright, we got, once again, it's a feeder supplies the following 2 motor operated loads: 30 amp air compressor, 24 amp dust collector. The equipment is listed in design, so only one load can operate at a time. One load can operate at a time. All right. So according to the 2026 NEC, what's the minimum calculated load for this feeder? So only one load is going to operate at the same time. So that means one load shuts off, other load turns on. When this load shuts off, that one turns on. That's how I think of it. What is the minimum calculated load for this feeder? What would the minimum calculated load for this feeder be? The equipment is listed in design, so only one load can operate at a time. Let us see. We know it's not continuous duty, anything like that. Protection, we got 430.3. We're just looking through, we're bold scanning right now. Bold scanning. A feeder supplies the following 2 motor operated loads. 2 motor operated loads. 2 motor operated loads. Now this is saying a feeder supplies, right? So it's not a motor supplies. So this makes me think, do we even have to be in section or in chapter 4 for this? Or are we in another chapter entirely for the feeder? For the motor loads. You know, it makes you kind of look around here. So I'm going to look for appliance. I'm just looking through 120. For feeder loads. All right. So I'm not finding anything in 120. All I found was the one section that was saying 120 for motors and air conditioning equipment, 120.50. Motors, the conductor sizing requirements specified in 430.24. And the feeder demand factor calculation method specified in 430.26 shall be used to determine motor loads. So there's 2 little things there that we can go search. And I got air conditioning equipment. The conductor sizing requirements specified in Article 440, Part 4 shall be used to determine air conditioning loads for hermetic refrigerant motor compressors. This is an air compressor. So I don't think this would count as a... Does that count, an air compressor count for refrigerant motor compressor? Air conditioning load for hermetic refrigerant motor compressor. See, this is getting into things I never worked with. So that's where it can really throw you for a loop if you don't know what these things are. If you never worked with these things, if you don't know where they are, what system they're used in, you know, it can kind of throw you for a loop. But if you know these things, I'm sure it's clicking with you like that, right? So, you know, that's a me problem. I got to go work on more refrigerants and compressors and motors. But we're going to look through this. Consider whether both loads must be included simultaneously when the equipment is designed so they cannot operate at the same time. So we got 430.24, several motors or a motor and other loads. Conductor supplying several motors or a motor and other loads shall have capacity not less than the sum of each of the following: 125% of the full load current rating of the highest rated motor as determined by 430.6, sum of the full load current ratings of all other motors in the group as determined in 430.6, 100% of the non-continuous non-motor load, 125% of the continuous non-motor load, and we got some exceptions which don't really go with what we're talking about. We got exception 1, where one or more of the motors of the group are used for short time, intermediate, periodic, or varying duty. The ampere rating of such motors used to in the summation shall be determined in accordance with 430.22e. For the highest rated motor, the greater of either the ampere rating from 430.22e or the largest continuous duty motor, full load current multiplied by 1.25 shall be used in the summation. We got exception 2, the capacity of conductors supplying motor operated fixed electric space heating equipment. Doesn't really go with what we're doing. We got exception 3, where the circuitry is interlocked so as to prevent simultaneous operation of selected motors or other loads. The conductor capacity shall be permitted to be based on the summation of all of the currents of the motors and other loads to be operated simultaneously. That results in the highest total current. Okay? So, we are going to go ahead. We're going to take our 30 amps. So we got to basically sum these. We got to see which one is the minimum. So we're looking for minimum. And we are using 1.25. Okay. And we're going to take our 30 amp and 24 amp, right? We're going to take 30 amp times 1.25, 24 amp times 1.25. All right, and we're going to open up my calculator here. So I can already tell, I think this is going to be based off of the dust collector, as that's the minimum calculated load for this feeder. Only one load can operate at a time, remember that. One load is operating at a time. These both aren't operating at the same time. All right, so let's just look through here. Other than continuous duty, we got, I'm just looking through some other pages. And this says nothing about continuous duty. Nothing going on with continuous duty. And we know this isn't single motor. So we can ignore that part entirely there. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to take my 24 amps for my dust collector. I'm going to times it by 1.25. That's going to give me 30 amps. And then I'm going to take that 30 amp dust collector, I'm going to times it by 1.25. That's going to give me 37.5. That is, I'm going to go with the 30. That's my minimum, and I believe that's correct, and that's all we have to do for that question. All right. So the answer for Brainbuster number 4 is 30 amps. For your 30 amp air compressor, your 24 amp dust collector. And now you see how we did that. Both of those loads aren't running at the same time. They're non-simultaneous. All right? They don't run at the same time. There's another word for it. I believe it was non-coincidental. Non-coincidental loads. They're loads that don't run at the same time. I can't find it in the 2026 NEC now to demonstrate what I'm talking about. But that's your homework. Non-coincidental loads. I made some TikToks on it before, but it's just not coming to my head right now. But we're going to go on to Brainbuster number 5. All right. Once again, JoshTheSparky.com/brain-busters. And you can scroll through there, answer this packet yourself, and then view the answer keys. And you can also download it as a PDF, etc. All the questions are from my Friday question of the week, every Friday at 9 a.m. sometime that day, every day, or every Friday. I go on there and I post on necchat.com the question of the week for people to solve, learn, and discuss about. And sometimes we even have CMECPs join in, and Paul Abernathy joins in. Some educators join in and drop knowledge bombs as well, and really get into the knowledge and learning. And they just hit 250 members on there, which is awesome. But man, I'm only at like 3 followers, so go follow me on necchat.com. It's Sparky Forever 29. Always posting questions on there. And I'll post even more if people start liking my posts and stuff. I'll post more. So, let's go on Brainbuster number 5. We're halfway through. A living room wall is 14 feet long, unbroken by doorways, fireplaces, or similar openings. According to the NEC 210.52A1, what is the minimum number of receptacle outlets required on this wall? Hint, apply the receptacle spacing rule on the wall's length. Alright, now this one, I know it, but we're going to break it down. We're going to go through it. So, immediately, it's giving you where to go. NEC 210.52. Where's that? Chapter 2 of the NEC. Alright? And what's it talking about? It's talking about branch circuits. Alright? You're going to go down. We're going to scroll. We see bold scan, right, if you're flipping through. But I'm going to go through and, I see 210.4, scope, 210.18, part 2. I see part 3. That's where we need to be in on 210. Part 3, 210.5, receptacle outlets. All right. We see receptacle outlets. Receptacle outlets shall be installed as specified in 210.52 through 210.65. And what is this question talking about? 210.52. So we're going to go to 210.52, dwelling unit receptacle outlets. This section provides requirements for 125 volt, 15 and 20 ampere receptacle outlets. The receptacle required by this section shall be in addition to any receptacle that is one of the following. We got 1, part of the luminaire or appliance. 2, controlled by wall, switch, or listed wall-mounted control device in accordance with 210.70A1 of Section 1. We got 3, located within cabinets or cupboards. And we got 4, located more than 5.5 feet above the floor. Permanently installed electric baseboard heaters equipped with factory-installed receptacle outlets or outlets provided as a separate assembly by the manufacturer shall be permitted as required outlet for outlets for the wall space utilized by such permanently installed heaters. Such receptacle outlets shall not be connected to the heater circuits. Informational note: listed baseboard heaters include instructions that may not permit their installation below receptacle outlets. All right. I'll read a little NFPA insight here. An outlet containing a duplex receptacle that is wired so that only one of the receptacles is controlled by a wall switch can be used to meet the receptacle outlet spacing requirement. However, if both halves of the duplex receptacle are controlled by a wall switch or other wall-mounted control device such as augmented sensors, additional unswitched receptacles have to be installed to meet the receptacle outlet spacing requirement. This could help prevent an occupant from running an extension cord from a receptacle that is not controlled by a switch to an appliance that requires continuous power. I just wanted to throw that in because a lot of people are like, why do we have all these requirements? NFPA gives you insight to why these requirements come to, why they think of these things. It's not just throwing code, we're making up codes here just to make up code. We need money. Give me your money. They're not doing that. It's because things have happened. Kids have pulled down coffee makers and scolded themselves and even killed themselves. This red book is built off of blood, and every code has a reason. It's not just because, these guys sitting in their offices or sitting at the big center stages discussing code all day want to make our life miserable. They're just trying to make life safer. So, in this question, it gives us 210.52A1, and we go down to general provisions, that's A, and we go to 1, which is spacing, and we read receptacles shall be installed receptacles shall be installed such that no point measured horizontally along the floor line of any wall space is more than 6 feet from a receptacle outlet. In this question, it says the living room wall is 14 feet, unbroken by doorways, fireplaces, or similar openings. All right? So, we're going to scroll down a little bit more. We see wall space in 2, wall space from 210.52. Any space 2 feet or more in width, including space measured around corners and unbroken along the floor line by doorways and similar openings, fireplaces, stationary appliances, and fixed cabinets. Right there, word for word what's in the question. We're looking for that 2 feet. All right? 2 feet, 2 feet. Oh, no, I was reading too much. That's where you got to stop reading. I was reading wall space 2 feet. I was going too far ahead of myself. We don't need that 2 feet. We just need that 6 feet. Take that 14, and we're going to just divide it. 14 divided by 6. We can't have 2.3 outlets. We can only have 2. All right, so that for Brainbuster number 5, 2 outlets for a 14-foot wall, okay? And we got that by taking that 6 foot and just taking 14, dividing 6 by it, gave us 2.3333. Repeating, you can't have 2.3 of an outlet, so we're just going to get rid of that 0.3, gives us 2 outlets, okay? Great. Brainbuster number 6. A 120 240 volt single phase dwelling service is installed using a 200 amp panel board. The grounding electrical system consists of 2 8-foot ground rods driven 6 feet apart. A grounding electrical conductor is run from the service to the first ground rod and then to the second ground rod. Measure the resistance of the first rod to earth, which is 38 ohms. That's the measured resistance of the first rod. According to NEC 250.53A2 and 250.53A3, what is required for this grounded electrode system? All right, we got some options here. We got no additional action is required because 2 rods are already installed. We got a supplemental grounding electrode is required because resistance exceeds 25 ohms. We got the system must be reconfigured because ground rods cannot be used in pairs. And we got the grounding electrode conductor must be increased in size to reduce resistance. All right. And we got a hint, pay close attention to the exception involving a single rod's resistance to earth. Let's go to 250.53A. Sorry, I'm drinking a protein shake. It's the only thing I got next to me, and I'm extremely thirsty. I didn't think I'd go this long, but I want to get through all 10 of these questions, and I know I'm kind of being a slouch getting through them, but I said I'd do it, and I want to do it what I said. So we're going to go into 250. That is our grounding and bonding in Chapter 2 of the NEC 2026 edition. So go to 250, and this question gave us, I believe they would call it like a mulligan, like they already gave you something to fall back on, which is 250.53A2 and A3. That's where we got to look. That's what the question is referring to. So we are going to get 250.53, which is grounding electrode system installation. First thing that pops up, we see our rod, pipe, and a plate electrode requirements. Rod, pipe, and plate electrodes shall be free from non-conductive coatings such as paint and enamel. Rod and pipe plate electrodes shall meet the requirements of 250.53A1 through 53A3 for 250. All right. Great. So we are going to scroll through. Now this mentioned 250.53A3. So I'm going to bold scan straight down to A3, which is supplemental electrode. If multiple rod, pipe, or plate electrodes are installed to meet the requirement of the section, they shall not be less than 6 feet apart. So, ground rod number 1, 6 feet apart. Ground rod number 2, they shall not be less than 6 feet apart. Now, from what I heard, you can do, if you put one ground rod in, you can take the second one, lay it on the ground from where that first ground rod is, and it's going to only be 2 feet extra that you're going to be putting that ground rod in, because that ground rod's only 8 feet long. So it's going to be, you can just use that ground rod to measure where your next ground rod's going to go and subduct 2 feet or keep it at 8. Is this from the CEC? I believe that's the Canadian Electrical Code. This is not Canada. I'm in America, so this is the NEC, National Electrical Code, which I believe Canada uses some of it and some other countries use it. That's why it's national. But we use the American standards here. There's another standard that we use here in America. I think it's the like IEEE standards for like motors, and NEMA standards. We got other standards like that, but what I'm reading off of is the NEC National Electrical Code, the 2026 edition. And we're doing 10 code questions right now. I make weekly code questions on necchat.com. And you can go there, sign up for free, answer questions every week, join in with actual educators. They'll drop some knowledge bombs. And then from there, you can learn and go into my site where I make all the packets. I'll take every question I do, I'll put them into a nice little like study packet, and then you can just scroll through, answer them. And I also put like a answer key sheet that you can download, and you can kind of just like do them offline away from the screen if you wanted to, because a lot of people like studying away from computer screens. And right now we're just answering this question that's asking what is required for this grounding electrode system. And so far, it seems single-phase dwelling service. It gives us a lot of information we don't need. We don't need to know it's a 240, 120 volt single-phase dwelling that's using a 200 amp panel board. We just need to know the grounding electrode system consists of two 8-foot ground rods driven 6 feet apart. A grounding electrode conductor is run from the service to the first rod and then to the second rod. Everything else is pretty much irrelevant to this question. We got the measured resistance to the first rod to earth is 38 ohms. When we scroll up a little bit, it talks about 25 ohms being needed. 25 ohms or less in 250.53, exceptions for A2. And this is 38 ohms if a single rod, pipe, or plate electrode has a resistance to earth of 25 or less, the supplemental electrode shall not be required. This has 38. So it is required, and it is 6 feet apart, as we've read in the previous text from the previous sub-article there. And we know it's 8 feet down, and we can have two of them. So everything in this question so far, two 8-foot grounds driven 6 feet apart, sounds great to me. So I'm going to go with A, no additional action is required because two rods are already installed. Our other options were B, a supplemental grounding electrode is required because resistance exceeds 25 ohms. C, the system must be reconfigured because ground rods cannot be used in pairs. And D, the grounding electrode conductor must be increased in size to reduce resistance. So if we got any of those three, I feel like we didn't read the article. So it's telling you what to read. If you go off somewhere else, you're reading something else, and you're reading something that isn't what it's talking about. So we got that one done. That was like a lot, but it really wasn't a lot if you know what to look for. That's the whole part about bold scanning and breaking down the question and being able to decipher what's useless and what's not, because they're going to throw a lot of useless stuff like I just read off into that question. Single phase dwelling, 200 amp, 120, 240 volt, resistance to earth. Don't need to know any of that. Just need to know two 8-foot ground rods, 6 feet apart. Is that legal? Yes, perfectly fine. So brainbuster number 7, we got commercial kitchen demand factors. A restaurant feeder supplies the following kitchen equipment: electric range, a deep fryer, an ice machine, and a dishwasher. According to the NEC 2026 Article 120.56, which statement correctly describes the equipment that may be included when applying the commercial kitchen equipment demand factors? All right, I'll read off the answers. We got A, only electric cooking appliances qualify. We got B, only cooking appliances and dishwashers qualify. We got C, qualifying commercial cooking equipment, dishwasher, booster heaters, water heaters, instantaneous water heaters, and other qualifying kitchen equipment may be included. And we got D, all equipment located anywhere in the restaurant automatically qualifies. And we got our hint here that I'll drop. Pay close attention to the phrase other kitchen equipment. Other kitchen equipment. And read the requirements in 120.56. So let's go to 120.56, which in the 2023 code used to be 220 for calculations. They now moved it to 120 in the 26, which is all part of the bigger plan to completely reorganize the entire structure of the 2029's NEC. Once again, not to just make it difficult on us, It's not really what they're doing, trying to make it easy for the next future standards to come out, like in the 2030s and the 2040s. This is all part of bigger plans going on to help ourselves in the future with this book that ever grows. So all of these articles I'm naming off right now, reading off like that, going to be completely reset in 2029 and different. Not so much, but it will be different in 2029. There's also a table in the 2026 NEC where you can go and you can actually see how they are changing things for 2029, so you can study that and be prepared for it. So they're not just completely like whoop-de-doo, you know, you're going to have to relearn everything. But it's going to be everybody. Everyone from the masters to us new guys are going to have to relearn how to understand that reorganization of the 2029 NEC. Anyways, let's go to 120.56. Thank you guys for tuning in with me today, staying here. Whoever's still here, learning with me, I appreciate it. I'm going to go to 120.56 here in the calculations. That's going to be part 3, feeder and service load calculations, all right? So we're going to go to 56. That's instantaneous water heaters in kitchen equipment other than dwelling units. All right. Okay, so let's read this off. We got 120.56, instantaneous water heaters in kitchen equipment other than dwelling units. We got calculating for the load for instantaneous water heaters in commercial electric cooking equipment, dishwasher booster heaters, water heaters, and other kitchen equipment in accordance with table 120.56 shall be permitted other than kitchen equipment shall include equipment that is fastened in place and rated 1/4 horsepower or greater, or 500 watts or greater. These demand factors shall be applied to all instantaneous water heaters or equipment that has either thermostatic control or intermittent use as kitchen equipment. These demand factors shall not apply to space heating, ventilating, or air conditioning equipment. However, in no case shall the feeder or service calculated load be less than the sum of the largest 2 kitchen loads. All right. We got our table here for 120.56, demand factors for instantaneous water heaters in kitchen equipment. All right. I don't think we even have to read that because this is just asking us, according to the 2026 Article 120.56, which statement correctly describes the equipment that may be included when applying the commercial kitchen equipment demand factors. All right. So we have A, only electric cooking appliances qualify. I don't see that. I don't see where it says only electrical cooking appliances. I see cooking equipment. I see commercial electric. I see dishwasher. I see it including other things. I don't see just that. So scratch that off. B, only cooking appliances and dishwashers only. I don't see that mentioned. If that was the case, it would mention just those 2. It wouldn't go on to say electric cooking equipment, dishwasher, booster heaters, water heaters, and other kitchen equipment. Right? We got C, qualifying commercial cooking equipment, dishwasher, booster heaters, water heaters, instantaneous water heaters, other qualifying kitchen equipment may be included. Ring-a-ding-ding, I think that's one. But let's read this final one. All equipment located anywhere in the restaurant automatically qualifies. I think this one's C. So we're going to go with C on this one for Brainbuster number 7. All right. So that's kind of how, like, you're going to break down things. You got to use the answers, and, you know, you're going to be, like, flip-flopping through that because you don't have, like, a calculation to instantly go off of. But it gives you the answer in that text. The code will always have the answer. Not always. Some questions will completely leave you stumped, and sometimes that's what they're supposed to do, to waste your time. You're just going to have to skip it and nail the other questions or flag it until the end. You know, I've heard cases like Paul Abernathy's shared on his podcast before, Master of the NEC podcast. He shared where people have said, you know, they just couldn't find this one question. There will be questions like that where you can't find the answers. He's admitted that too, where you just won't be able to find the answers. You can't dwell on those. You can't dwell on the questions where you'll never find the answers because you're never going to find the answers to all the other questions that you could easily find the answer to. So we're going to go to Brainbuster number 8. A restaurant has the following kitchen equipment connected to a feeder. Electric range, 12 kilowatt, 12,000 watts. Deep fryer, 8,000 watts. Griddle, 10,000 watts. We got convection oven, 10,000 watts. Convert those to VA. Using the applicable NEC demand factors for commercial kitchen equipment, what's the calculated demand load? All right. Let's open up. We got 12 kW, which I want to change to VA, 8 VA, which was kW. We got our 10 VA, 15 VA. Use the applicable demand factors for commercial kitchen equipment. And we're going to go find our commercial equipment. Commercial equipment. We're in the water heaters. I need to find commercial equipment. Appliance load, fixed electric space heaters, receptacle load, hotel office loads, all other loads, maximum load. I think 120.56, calculating the load for instantaneous water heaters and commercial electric cooking equipment. So that's what this is. All right, so 120.56. We're in the right one. So this should be, I think this will be easy. Last time I said that, I was here for 45 minutes doing it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in our numbers here. We got 12 VA plus 8 plus 10 plus 15. And I'm going to times it by, we have, how many do we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of equipment here. Right, in this table, 120.56, for 4 pieces of equipment, our demand factor is going to be 80%. So we're going to times it by 0.8. That's 80% reciprocal. And it gives us 36 kW. All right, you're going to want to convert it back to kW. After you can use VA or kW. They go hand in hand. But, you know, I like to use VA. That's how I learned converting it. Anyways, your answer is going to be B, 36 kW. All right, awesome. Cool. A dwelling, we got Brain Buster number 9. A dwelling unit contains 4 household electric ranges, each rated at 14 kW. Using the NEC table 120.55 and the applicable loads, what is the calculated demand load? I notice an error here. It says 120 in the question. We're on the 2026 NEC. It's 120, not 220. It says 220 on the page, not 120. That's an error. That's my error. I got to fix that. But it's meant to say 120. So that gives me an idea that this answer might not be as correct as we think, because, you know, if it's giving me a 2023 question, then it might be a 2023 answer, and I'm using the 2026. So we're just going to see how that works, and we're going to get what we get. All right, so let's go ahead, and dwelling unit contains 4 household electric ranges, each rated at 14 kW. So we got 4 times 14 kW, 4 ranges. So I'm going to put, all right, let's go to 120.55, which is right above 120.56. But my NFPA link just messed up, and it put me all the way back at 90. Or before 100. It could put me in the intro. Okay. Let's see. So we got number of appliances. For electric cooking appliances in dwelling units and household cooking appliances using instructional programs. The load for household electric ranges, wall-mounted ovens, counter-mounted cooking units, and other household cooking appliances individually rated excess of 1/3 kilowatt shall be permitted to be calculated in accordance with table 120.55 kilovolt amperes kVA shall be considered equivalent in kilowatts kW for loads calculated under this section. Where 2 or more single-phase ranges are supplied by 3-phase or 4-wire feeder or service, the total load shall be calculated on the basis of twice the maximum number of connected between any 2 phases. basis of twice the maximum number connected between any two phases. Sorry, I kind of butchered that. I butchered that one a little bit. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We got a number of appliances. We got 4 of them. And we see we got our side here, column C, maximum demand. This is asking for what's the calculated demand. So we got to calculate it. Demand factors are based on the diversified use of household appliances, because it is unlikely that all appliances will be used simultaneously, or that all cooking elements in the oven of range will be at maximum heat for a length of time. The values in column C are applicable to installations where all ranges in the group have the same rating. So we will be using column C because all the ranges have the same rating. Note 1 applies where the ranges are rated greater than 12 kilowatts, and note 2 applies where the ranges in the group have different ratings. Column C must be used unless note 3 is applicable. Notes 3 and 4 cover installations where the circuit supplies multiple cooking components which are combined and treated as a single range. Note 1. For household electric ranges, the size of the conductor must be determined by the rating of the range. According to 12055, one range rated at 12 kilowatts or less, the maximum demand load is 8 kilowatts. Note that 210.19 does not permit the branch circuit rating of a circuit. Supplying household ranges with a nameplate rating of 8 kilowatts could be less than 40 amps. The demand in column C must be increased at a individual range is rated at 12 kilowatts but not more than 27 kilowatts. All ranges in the group must have the same rating. So that's if we were grouping these. We don't have to because it's all the same kilowatt rating. It's all the same rating for these ranges. So we're going to look through, get the same rating, but we can't use column C because they're all 14 kW rated ranges. So we're going to have to go ahead and do some math. So we got 14 kilowatt. Alright, we got 4 of them. Each rated 14 kW. Alright, so we're going to have to determine the maximum demand for these 4 ranges, which are each rated at 14 kW. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take our 14 kW. And we're going to take away that 12, which should give us 2 kW. And now we need to find the increase for this, which I believe we can just do, I think it's like 5%. It's 5% per kW as we read. I lost where I was reading. Find it. So we got over 12 kW through 27 kW ranges of all the same range rating. For ranges individually rated more than kW but not more than 27, the maximum demand in column C shall be increased to 5% for each additional kilowatt of rating or major fraction thereof, by which the rating of individual ranges increases by 12 kW. All right. So we're going to go ahead and 12. Let's see, for household electric ranges, the size of the conductors. Gotta find where it says, because we don't have different size ranges. We got ranges that are the same size, 4 of them, same sized, right? But they're over 12 kW. They're all 14 kW. So we're going to take 5%, times it by 2, which is 1. All right, and now we're going to go ahead, take our 12 times 4, 8, 115. All right, I didn't do that one right. Okay, what am I missing here? Determine the maximum demand for four ranges, each rated at 15 kW. Start with a number of appliances and their individual ratings, then apply applicable to 120.55. Okay. We know we got 4 ranges, and we know they're each rated at 14 kW. So, take those 4. Where's my calculator? 4 times 14. And then oh man, I lost it. Come on. 4 times 14. Not 948. 4 times 14. 56 kW. And then take away that. Nope, still got it wrong. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? Let's see. What am I misunderstanding? We got the demand factor percentage. We got 4 household electric ranges, each are rated at 14 kW. What is the calculated demand load? 4 times 14. Not the right one. So 4 times 4. Let's see. When in doubt, look through the notes. We got over 12 kW through 27 kW ranges, all of the same rating. For ranges individually rated, the maximum demand in column C shall be increased 5% for each additional kilowatt of rating or major fraction thereof by which the rating of individual ranges exceeds 12. Okay, so we know this exceeds 12. So we know we got, we're going to have to determine how much rating we have above 12 kilowatts. So we're going to have to go ahead and take our, 14 kilowatts. 14 kilowatts. And we got to see how much of that is over 12, which we know about 2. It's going to be 2. So we can minus 12, make sure, you know, it's 2 kilowatts. Calculate the required demand increase, which we're just going to go ahead and it's 5%. So we need to get our 5% reciprocal. And then, or, yeah, 5%. Okay, so we got 10%. 10% by taking our 2 kW, times it by 5. So that's 10%, calculate required demand, calculate maximum demand. So we got 14 times 10, 1, 4. Okay. I lost my whole page that I was doing. All right. Okay, so we're going to take our 4 ranges. We're going to times it by 14. 4 times 14, which is 56 kW. And because each range is over 12 kW, the applicable note requires an adjustment. So for 4 ranges, column C, we're going to have to go to column C. That's where I was messing up. Okay, because I was thinking column C wasn't going to work. Column C for 4 ranges, not over 12 kW rating. Remember, maximum demand and demand factor are 2 different things. So just remember that. That's where I'm messing up. So maximum demand for 4 ranges is 17 kW. All right, so we're going to take, that's 3 over. So we're going to take our average rating, which is 14 kW. Amount over, that's 2 kW. We know that. So 2 kW divided by 12. That's what we need to do, 2 kW divided by 12. Because that's the demand rating. How many over 12? So we got 2 divided by 12. That's going to give us a percentage, which is 16.67, which is our 15% increase. And then we're going to go ahead and do I'm getting confused. Why am I confused here? My questions are hard. So we got 4 appliances. Table 120.55 gives us 17 kW. And we know the individual rating of each range is 14. That's 2 kW over 12. Now we're going to apply note 3, which states over 1/3 kW through 8/3 kW in lieu of the method provided in column C, adding the nameplate ratings of all household cooking appliances rated more than 1/3 kW, but not more than 1/3 kW, and multiplying the sum by the demand factors specified in column A or B, for given the number of appliances shall be permitted where the rating of cooking appliances fall under both column A and B. The demand factors for each column shall be applied to appliances for that column and the results added together. So, for 14 kW ranges, the applicable adjustment is 10%, because we got that from getting that 2 from the 14 and the 12. All right. So we know we got 17 for the 4 from the maximum demand column, 17 kW. Going to times that by our 10%. That gives us 1.7 kW. Now we're going to take our 17 plus that, which gives us 18.7 kW. So that is our answer for B. I believe that is right. So 18.7 kW is our answer for a dwelling unit that contains 4 household electric ranges, each rated at 14 kW, using NEC 120.55 and the applicable notes. What's the actual calculated demand load? And what we did is we went ahead, we took our 4 household ranges, each range that is 14 kW. We used the 120.55 Then we went ahead, we went into the table, we went into column C, and we used how many ranges we have, which is 4. Column C says 17 kW. We took our 17 kW, and we know each range is over that 12 kW. Each range is 14 kW, okay? And that's 2 over, which is going to be your 10%. Once you do the conversion on that, and you're going to take that 17, you're going to times it by 10%. That's going to give you your 1.7 kW. You're going to take your 17 that you got from the maximum demand, and you're going to add that 1.7 kW to it, and that's going to give you your 18.7 kW answer. All right. Ranges are probably one of my most difficult parts of the code book, up there with motors. Ranges and motors, those are the two ones that I always struggle on, because you have to do different calculations in the calculation you're doing. You're not just reading the table and going off the table. You got to read the table, then you're saving bits of information to use the table again. So you're really working with the code book and doing it's getting you into different parts of the code book, thinking differently about different parts of the code and how it works. It really tells you how just changing this question a little bit can change how this whole breakdown did. So I really enjoy these range questions and the motor questions because of how challenging they are, and it really makes you think. So if you're studying electrician like me, do ranges and do motor control calculations. Motor, ranges, and just normal dwelling calculations, like full dwelling calculations, you'll be all set. Like everything else in the code can come just by doing the questions and like, oh, you know, like where can you find like article, what's in chapter 1, and you know, they'll give you silly answers where it's like, oh, that's easier than doing the calculation. Like I prefer those over the calculation, because calculations takes you some time, especially when you get into the ranges and you get into like we were just doing the air, dust and air compressor one, where you got to compare the simultaneous loads. You know, it gets a little bit challenging, but you know, take your time with it. I like taking my time with it. It's going to take you a long time, maybe like an hour to break down one question, but so what? You're learning. You learn how to do it, and you're just going to get faster over time. And then when you see those, you won't be as intimidated, and it won't take you as long, and it'll trigger things in your head to be like, oh, I got this. I can do it. It'll be just as easy as answering like a normal question. Like how many VAs we use for a dwelling unit calculation. Which, speaking of, is our final brain buster, number 10. A single family dwelling has a 2,400 square feet of floor area calculated from the outside dimensions and excluding open porches, garages, and unfinished spaces. According to the 2026 NEC, at what VA per square foot is the general lighting load calculated for determining the minimum number of branch circuits required and performing the standard feeder service load calculation? All right. We got A, 2 VA square feet for both. We got B, 3 VA square feet for both. We got C, 2 VA square feet for branch circuits, 3 VA square feet for feeders and service. Or we got D, 3 VA square feet for branch circuits, or 2 VA square feet for feeder and service. All right. And here's the hint. We got the NEC uses different values for these two purposes. Pay close attention to which calculation performing and which table or selection applies. Okay. So we're going to immediately go to, whenever I see a question like this asking for the VA for a dwelling calculation, I immediately go to 120.13 and I start looking through. It's just the first page I'll go to, and then I'll start to remember like, oh, 120.41 is our dwelling unit minimum unit load. And it'll say here, in one family, two family, and multifamily dwelling, the minimum unit load shall not be less than 22 volt amperes or 2 volt amperes. All right. But as we scroll down, we're going to scroll a little bit more because there's more to this. There's just, we got that one, and then we have a feeder and service one. Because you got one, you're going to be using one to do your feeder and services, and then you're going to be using another one for your branch circuits. That was the feeder and service. 2 VA is feeder and service. 3 VA is for your branch circuits, okay? So to prove that, we're going to go to 120. Got to look for it here. 3 VA. right here, 120.13, dwelling units, branch circuit loads. In dwelling units, the minimum unit load shall not be less than 33 volt amperes and 3 volt amperes per square foot for calculating minimum branch circuits required. So what did I say last time? I said 2 VA for the feeder and branch circuit, and it's 3 VA for branch circuits, but it's 2 VA for feeders in service. Let's double check this so I got it right. So we got 2 VA for branch circuit. We got 3 VA for branch circuit loads. You can see how this can get confusing, okay? We got 3 VA for branch circuit loads, and we got 2 VA for our feeder and service, okay? Which you can find feeder and service is going to be in your dwelling units minimum load. That's in part 3, feeder and service load calculations of 120. And then you've got your 120.13 dwelling units branch circuit load. That's going to be in part 1 of chapter 1's 120 branch circuit feeder and service load calculations, okay? So I'm going to go with answer D here, which is 3 VA for branch circuits and 2 VA for feeder and service. All right? And we have officially completed our 10-question Brain Buster packet, which you can go online, JoshTheSparky.com, and view. It's JoshTheSparky.com/brain-busters with an S, okay? And you can scroll through, no account, no ads. I don't make any money off of it. It's just to get your head in the game and your head in the code, and you can see what doing these kind of questions will do for you. There's an answer key on there as well. You can download the PDF of just the full site and the answer key, and then you can do it like on the go and just practice it and take your time with it and use the real code book with you. You don't got to do it all virtually and online. To do these questions every week, every Friday is when I drop a new question, and eventually they get put into a packet. You can go on necchat.com, sign up for free with an email, and you'll get a free course for ampacities, and you can get involved on all these questions. And your input does matter. If you notice something wrong with a question, the input gets, I read it. I read everything that happens, and I make it better. I improve, all right? We're all here to improve. We're all here to do good. We're all here to do better. As always, I'm not a real educator, not a real teacher. I'm just a kid, a student trying to learn the NEC, and one day wanting to be a master electrician and run my own company and be able to teach people and put them on. So, you know, I hope somebody gets something out of this. I don't know if anyone watched it. I don't know if a bunch of people watched it. I don't know how I did. And it's whatever. I'll judge myself when I go to bed. That's what I normally do. And I'll meditate on it. I know I can always do better, and I'm going to make the stream better. I'll make it next time to where you can see the questions I'm answering, as well as an FPA link. I'll set it up on my computer as a proper broadcast and not on my phone. I'll also be putting this, once my website's more updated, you'll be able to just type in Josh the Sparky like live, and I'll pop up right there as well, instead of like different apps and stuff. As always, you can find me, JoshTheSparky.com. Always updating there, weekly updates, weekly reports every Sunday. You can subscribe for my monthly newsletter. Every 4th of every month, I drop a newsletter. We got a featured segment on there where I feature some Sparkies from social media I find interesting, educators, people in the community, and doing good for the trade. I'll give them a little spotlight. I got my Sparky journal. I'm always updating that every Thursday. I have my own schedule on there that live updates, my own Sparky feed, which is like a custom Twitter feed. I got my quick hit section where you can study the code along with me. I got my learn section, brain busters, question of the week, videos, everything you can find, JoshTheSparky.com, and go to necchat.com for more code questions of the week. And I hope to see you guys again, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the support. A lot of people hype me up, and as long as people hype me up, I'll keep doing my best. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned something. Go do good work today. Go learn more, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one, everybody. I don't know how I'm going to end this live stream. What do I click? Do I just take you guys with me everywhere now? Is this like part of my life? Oh, what's this button? End live? Share live for more viewers? Wait, can I save my live? Campaigns, remove background noise. Oh, that would have been cool to know. Wallpaper. Wow, there's a lot of things here I didn't know about. Crazy what you do when you kind of like look around. What's this button? Quick invites. Alright, that's cool. What's this one? Alright. Okay, I think I can end it. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day. Have a good week. And my next post is going to be coming out in 30 minutes on here. And then another one at 6 p.m. And then, as always, if you want to check my schedule, JoshTheSparky.com/schedule. You can check me out there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you learned something. I'm out of here. Have a good day, all. Go to fasttracksystem.com/shop to get a hat clip and advertise your brand on your hat.